Hey, photographers. Sometimes I just don't have the right answer to a question or a comment that you pose. So this morning I'm going to ask my friend Paul if he can provide some guidance. Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking the time to join me this morning.
Hold on, wait. Gotta just make sure I look beautiful.
Yes, of course. Eyebrows. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to, you start it however you want.
Right.
We're rolling.
So, Paul, thanks for joining me this morning. These are challenging times. Are you coping well with the social distancing?
Yeah.
Do you have enough toilet paper, enough yeast?
I'm making my own yeast as we speak.
Well,
there's yeast in the air, so
Right.
It's not a problem, especially if you're baking bread. But I stopped. Actually, we were baking bread for a full month.
Yes.
At the start of this crazy pandemic, and I've gained 10 pounds. I was at COVID 9 pounds. Now I'm at COVID 10 pounds.
Right.
So,
Good.
and I don't want to go any farther.
No, it's a problem. So I had a comment, I guess, from a viewer who challenged me with some linguistics. And English is not my first language, so I'm looking to you for some guidance.
Okay.
So the question that the viewer posed, or the comment that was made, was that some of the terminology that we use for photography, they found it unpleasant. So the idea that you would take a photograph, that felt to him kind of like theft. The idea that you would capture an image, also not the right connotations. And the third terminology that he had trouble with was shooting. So, maybe I agree with some or all of these, but can we unpack those? What's your feeling on take a photograph? Does that work? Is that permissible terminology in 2020?
Well, none of those I think are vulgar, but I understand. I guess this was a he, not a.
Well,
let's not presuppose.
I'm jumping to conclusions. Yes. They then.
They. We can't be too careful these days.
Yep.
I would say that there's context maybe for taking a picture. Interesting. I mean, you're not taking, I think, when you're doing shrubbery or maybe animals, but right. I would say it ventures into an area which I actually have a problem with, is people going to countries that are a little bit economically more depressed than what we are able to enjoy here in North America, and they take pictures of street people, wrinkled street people with no teeth, selling stuff off the side of the road, maybe paying them something for that, but there's this kind of National Geographic porn, I call it. And
you're right.
I would
that does feel.
And I would say that's taking. I would classify that as taking a picture.
All right. But in general terms, the use of the word take, again, speaking as someone, English is not my first language. I hear everything very differently, possibly, than others do. So I take the bus. That doesn't imply that I'm stealing the bus.
But then, okay, now we're getting into the fact that English is a stupid language.
Oh, no, I think English, in fact, I'm going to disagree with you just right off the bat there, which is that I think English is the most wonderful and flexible language, which is that in English, anyone can invent a word and everybody knows just about immediately what that word is. Because the invention of words in English, the stringing together of, syllabic elements, well, I don't know what you call it. Anyway, makes sense pretty quickly to people.
Right. Well, we certainly don't concatenate words like they do in Finnish and Hungarian and I guess German, where, they'll make up a word based on a whole bunch of attributes of a thing, and then you have to figure out what that means. The large person swinging metal device hitting small white object. Oh, golf. Right?
Right.
They do that in, I think, in Icelandic.
Right.
So, but what do you think about this concept of National Geographic porn?
I find it difficult to take street photographs, and I do feel that I'm always invading people's privacy. So I'm quite careful about the photographs that I take, and then I'm even more careful about the photographs that I would use, particularly in my videos. I don't want anybody to feel in a photograph that they have been negatively or harshly portrayed. I don't like that concept, and I would avoid it.
Well, in terms of invading people's spaces, you just need to stop climbing up the sides of villas and going into people's balconies and through the windows to take pictures. I would suggest you stop doing that.
The drone means I no longer have to do that.
Oh, yeah, that's another subject. So what would you substitute for taking pictures? Snapping pictures?
Right. Well, I suppose snap is acceptable. The viewer suggested the term, I think, expose? No. Expose, of course, is wrong. Expose wouldn't work either.
No.
Maybe it's the word illuminate. We illuminate a photograph. We illuminate it.
Well, clearly we don't have the right term. I don't agree with that. You would sound like a complete ass if you went up to someone and say, "Can I illuminate you?"
Right.
You might get hit. Actually.
And this is one of the things, is that it's common usage that makes some of these terms acceptable, but if we, take a minute to unpack them, maybe we should reconsider. We're no longer talking about people being homeless. They're not homeless. They're experiencing homelessness. So, and not to make fun of that concept, but am I now no longer a photographer? I'm experiencing photography. English, as I say, for those of us for whom it's a second language, it's fraught with problems. There's lots
well, that was
of
my point. I mean,
yes,
I agree with your previous point that English is marvelous in the sense that it can absorb more terms from other languages than any other language in the world. I think that's proven. So there's some wonderfulness as it relates to that. But the downside is one word can mean 8 different things. So that's a challenge. So taking pictures. Well, do you think the person is being a little anal retentive about that?
Well, that was my worry, that sometimes people dive too deeply into these things and try to find things that none of us attribute that value. But then I think, when one walks into a room of people and say, "Hey guys, I have always felt that I'm including everybody," but clearly people of alternate genders to guys, or people who don't identify as guys, feel some offense at that remark. So that's usage that I no longer employ. So my feeling about what a word
Which
means,
is why I go into a room and go, "Hey girls," so it works way better.
Yes, I can see how that would be very effective. Yeah, but
sorry to interrupt you.
Well, it's part of the reason why I say, "Hey, photographers."
Right. I would say, in the context of how inappropriate taking a picture might be,
could be,
I think it works if, when I ask someone, "Can I take your picture?" suddenly I think it becomes the correct term.
Right. Yes, because in that case, because you're asking permission and you feel you are taking something from them. And
correct.
I have read that there are cultures where the act of taking someone's photograph, of illuminating someone's image on your sensor, is not viewed in the same way, that you are taking a part of their spirit, that you are capturing some part of them that they may not be willing to share with you.
Yeah, the Bosnian national soccer team is particularly offended by having their pictures taken, I've heard.
As is my brother, but we won't go there.
And what's the other words we have to solve there?
So the other words were capture.
Well, I think in terms of vernacular, just talking about the subject, I think it's fine. But I would never go up to someone and say, "Can I capture your picture?"
No, but and this I guess it's one of the issues with language, that because we use a certain word frequently, we would like to have some alternates. So take a picture, capture a picture. We don't just want to say take all the time because it feels dull, boring, repetitive. So we're looking for another word that possibly has the same, similar, close enough meaning that we can use it instead.
Okay, so let me just go back a bit. Is this person having an issue with the words that photographers use with other photographers, or the words that we use with the general public?
I don't know. But I
because that can have an effect.
Right. I assume that somehow it is both. Is it fair to assume that there are people to whom photography is not a accepted practice, is not an understood expression?
I think everybody, more people are taking photographs now than ever before. I would imagine, and we now have different terms for it too. Are you going to Instagram me?
Right.
We're now no longer using any photographic terms at all. So if this individual has problems, I would say it's worth discussing, like we're doing right now. I think we're showing maturity by not just accepting things without examining it a little bit further, which is why I'm so glad that you asked me to be part of this little video. But I think my conclusion is that as a survey of one, I don't think he represents the majority.
No, I would agree with that. I think that most people listen to those words and don't actually hear them, which is why I thought it was an interesting opportunity to actually listen to the word, think about what the word means, and try and bring some value to those words so that we think about them differently. And I don't think that that is political correctness, which I'm certain in the comments for this video we're going to be accused of.
Well, perhaps. I think the main takeaway from that particular comment is that I don't think the terms are bad. I just think we need to be conscious of their meaning.
Right. And shooting?
Well, that's interesting.
Because
where did
say
that
it
come
a lot.
from? Where did that come from? Did you check the etymology for that? Where did shooting a picture?
Yeah, shooting a video, shooting a rapids.
Yeah.
No, it's.
Yeah, we use that for shooting movies.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Right.
You needed to do some research before we did this just now, Maarten.
Well, I could Google this, but I can appreciate that. It can be a very sensitive word. Maybe we should avoid its use.
You know what? I think a little bit of research should be done, because maybe the origin of shooting a movie is actually not connected to weaponry. Perhaps it has its own etymology,
right?
Not related. So before we jump to any conclusions there, maybe as a addendum to this video after we're done
I'll do a little research and see what
research
I can
and tell the audience. I'd be interested in finding out what you find out.
All right.
Are we done here?
Well, I was going to ask you, is there anything further that you would like to add to this, or can I invite my
I think
viewers?
this has been great. I'm really thankful and happy that you invited me to be on this video. I do like the minutiae of life. Yes. I think that's possibly one of the most fun things that you can delve into. There's all sorts of big picture stuff, but there's these tiny things like this, which I find utterly fascinating.
Yes, thanks. I think that's what makes Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld so interesting. They like to say it's about nothing, but it really is just about very little things.
It's true. I did hear a story a long time ago where an MP in Ottawa got their name monogrammed on a pencil or a set of pencils, and the other MPs in the House freaked out and demanded that they get their own monogrammed pencils. So no issue too small is too big, I say.
Right. Okay, well, I'll send over your supply of monogrammed pencils.
With your name on it, of course.
No, they'll have your name on it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
thank you very much.
In fact, I could put the URL for your YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.
So that more people will be exposed to your random brain farts.
I look forward to seeing this video on your channel.
Right.
Thanks for inviting me in.
Oh, my pleasure. And, and now I'm going to say this with some trepidation, because this topic, while it's been interesting to discuss, I'm going to invite your civil comments and your, relevant questions. I don't know if the relevant questions to this might be, but please use humor, use your sense of fair play. I will answer all of your comments as long as they're civil. Thanks so much for watching. It's always a pleasure to interact with you. Paul's instincts were right. According to Wikipedia, because early film cameras were hand-cranked, it was very similar to machine guns of the same era, so a camera person would shoot film the same way an artillery officer would shoot bullets from a machine gun. The term seems to go back as far as 1890. It is an English term. The French used the term tournage, derived from turning, which likely also refers to the movie camera's cranking action. History has not recorded what Edison or the Lumiere brothers said when they first started filming. Now, it's actually a little more complicated, because the term shot also has many meanings and variations. It generally means the time from when a camera starts filming to when it stops, but also refers to the portion of that shot used in the finished film when it's been edited. Then there's the wide shot, the two-shot, and further variations. I hope this helps. Please comment if you have alternate or more detailed information.